Never a doubt. Shadow BOX to the ER. Never a doubt.
Come on, man.
Never
Yo,
a fucking
why they
doubt.
talking crazy after the game? Hold on, they talking
Hey,
crazy.
never a fucking doubt. Hey, um, Steph Curry. he- I remember there was a game in 2023. Draymond Green got suspended, so we were down 0-2. I actually went to that game. We were down 0-2, and when I tell you that everybody and their mama was panicking because Draymond Green got um Draymond Green got suspended, and I watched Steph Curry back against the wall, adversity, all of that shit, and he played one of the most controlled games I've ever seen. It was game 3, round 1, 2023. We were down 0-2 against the Kings. And I watched him just go out there, calm, collected, and just had everything going. This kind of reminded me of that game, but this one might have been better because, all right, I will say this about the Houston Rockets: they're a really good defensive team, um, but offensively they're on the spectrum. You know what I'm saying? They're just not a really good offensive team. Like they can get buckets here and there. You know what I'm saying? But they're really not that great. To be perfectly honest with you, they're not that great. And I was just watching them tonight, just trying to create offense. And it's like you got Steph Curry, you have Steph Curry, you have Jalen. Like who's their guy? You know, and it's funny because at halftime we had like a couple of turnovers and all of that, and I was watching us turn the ball over, and I was telling my playback, I was like, yo, this game is ours. You know what I'm saying? Because we're just creating advantages. We're getting stops. Um, we're doing all of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Over and over and over again. And, it's really impressive to see how Steph was just in control. Like the whole time he was just in control and nobody on the other end was in control. And I know they were bumping their chest, talking all of this and talking all of that. And, they won't say it, but they were happy that Jimmy Butler got hurt because they thought that because Jimmy got hurt, that would have been their chance to get back into the series. And how do I know this? Because I watched them on Twitter, I listened to them, and I seen how they were talking. They were talking like, "Oh, blah 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 blah, no excuses, this, that, and the other." Yeah, no fucking excuses because guess what? Y'all are dog shit. Y'all can't score. Y'all can't score the ball. We had 3, 4 guards out there at times, and they still couldn't score the ball.
That shit was
Nope.
crazy.
Yeah. They don't have a guy. They're not ready yet. They're a
They're
good
not,
team. They're
bro.
not ready.
And I give them credit because they're a good team and they've leaned into something that you know
Rocco, you're being
Like if this were
soft.
the Lakers and
Why?
we faced them without Jimmy, like we probably would have lost because like the Lakers just have too much experience and like
Let's
they're
not be
really good.
soft.
Hey,
Rockets are
good game,
trash.
Echo.
The
GG's.
Rockets are just not on that level yet. I just feel like.
Trash. Let's not be soft. They're trash.
Nah, nah,
That's it.
nah, nah, nah. They're not trash. I can't call them trash.
no
They're
so they do
trash.
Like
something.
Don't call
relative
them
to their
trash.
expectations, they're
Hold
a really
on.
good team. I
Nah,
can't.
They do
DeAndre a real nigga
something.
though. He be here every trip. Like,
Bro,
They do something that's interesting because they can't really score the ball like that, but they do the dirty work, man. And
Yeah.
it is interesting to see a team win like this in this era. You know what I'm saying? Because they did win a lot of games, and they're not a great shooting team. They don't run a really high level offense and all of that, right? But I have to respect it on some level. You know what I'm saying? Like they do need a guy that can create offense and do all of these things, right? But like we have a guy and they don't.
Yeah.
We have 2 guys, they don't.
Talk about it.
And Jimmy Butler, you know, if Jimmy Butler is in the last 2 games, right? I have a sneaky suspicion we're closing them out on Monday. You know what I'm saying? Because like they just don't have enough, man. And it's like, we were running small stuff. Quentin Post, bro. Let me say something about Quentin Post, right? Outside of Steph Curry, Quentin Post had 12 rebounds, 4 assists, and he shot 1 of 7 from three. And people are going to look at that 1 of 7 and say, oh my God, this, that, or the other, right? But let me tell you something, bro. He had 12 of the most important rebounds that I can remember, right? Like
Especially
we
dealing with
really,
Adams.
really, we really have to
Yo,
look at it from that standpoint, bro.
yo, uncle, today is the King's Day, man, in Netherlands.
We really have to look at it from that standpoint, bro. This dude was in the G League earlier in the year, and now he's playing 27 playoff minutes starting.
That's big. That's a
Hats
big
off to him,
adjustment.
man,
That's
bro.
big.
That's massive, 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 massive. Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield was out there, and it's always going to be an adventure with Buddy, right?
Yeah.
Buddy Hield, but I got to give it to him, bro.
He did play well. Outside of getting stripped by Adams, I think he
Bro,
did
he
play
did have
well.
17 points today. Like I don't know,
That's good for Buddy. That's good enough for Buddy.
right? So that's another thing. So Pods had a solid game tonight. Okay, GP2. I was annoyed with GP2 the first half of the game. He had 16 points tonight. Shot 7 of 9 from three. Okay, 16 points off the bench from GP2 was massive.
Yeah.
Um, I want you to attribute every single point that Steph Curry scored to GP2, because Steph Curry created every single shot that GP2 took, right? Whether it was from the handoff stuff, whether it was from the 3-point shot, whether it was from a direct pass or two passes away, Steph Curry created every shot for GP2. And that's what I mean when I say, like, Steph is the greatest offensive player that I've ever seen, because somebody like GP2 has no business scoring in a playoff game like this. You know what I'm saying? But because I knew we won the game once I saw Houston sending them traps. You know what I'm saying? And they were just giving up those advantages, right? So two things happened today. They gave up all of that stuff. Steph had 36 and he had 9 assists. You're just not going to beat them when you're trapping him like that and you're giving up that many advantages. And he's shooting the ball like that because he really didn't start off shooting the ball great. He shot 5 of 13 from three tonight. And they're really not giving him a lot of angles to shoot. DeAndre, what's going on?
Nah, I told you I was gonna be here after every game, win or loss. I'm a man of my word. Got to stand 10 toes.
Mm-hmm.
Was mostly disappointed in Ime today. Our players didn't really execute the way that they needed to, but I feel like Ime was very reactionary today. I
Reactionary
want to
in what
say it
sense?
was reactionary with his lineups, with how he called timeouts. It was the run you guys went on. I want to say it was the third quarter. Put y'all up 58-57. I want to say that was the third. It was the possession beforehand where he should have called a timeout. We were up 57-56. Steph had just hit a three. Crowd was going crazy. That's where you call a timeout. That's where you call a timeout, kill momentum, get your guys in the right spot to make a play. He doesn't call a timeout. We commit a turnover. You guys get a bucket. Crowd goes crazy. Now we get a timeout. I'm a big flow of the game guy. I'm a big momentum guy. I think that's the most important thing in basketball, seeing how the flow of the game is going. And I feel like when you allow the other team to capitalize on that momentum and capitalize and dictate the flow of the game, going into timeouts, it now becomes man, what are we doing? What's it looking like? And then while I'm going through these emotions, I'm looking up and damn, we losing now. We were just up 9. We were just up 10. What's happening now? I feel like we didn't capture momentum when we needed to. In the moments we did have momentum, especially early on in that first half, we didn't extend the lead the way we needed to. We got really sloppy in certain sets. Feel like we go up, believe it was 34-22. I want to say that was the score in the second quarter. And then he benched Jalen and Şengün. And I want to say Jalen had just hit a layup. Şengün had just gotten 2 off the pick and roll. And then we sat 2 of those guys down. Second half, I believe it was 68-67, something like that. I want to say like into the third quarter. Jabari hits a big three, gets a huge stop on the other end. He gets sat down. Start of the fourth quarter, exact same thing. Jabari starts playing off really well. Dillon Brooks comes in. Dillon Brooks picks up his 5th foul immediately. Now Dillon Brooks gives up 3 straight layups off the GPT short roll or GP2 short roll because the GP2's credit, he knows DB can't really step up. He doesn't want to pick the 6th foul up. He doesn't want to foul. didn't even matter. Dylan eventually ended up fouling out regardless. So I feel like Ime didn't coach his best game. I feel like he really let Steve Kerr dictate the flow of the game in multiple aspects. Um, Overall, I just was really, really disappointed in Ben Thompson today. Probably the worst I've seen him play in a high leverage game. Couldn't be Quentin Post, which was rather annoying. He's done it in the past. He's done it in previous games this season.
You know what that
Don't know if we
reminded me of,
necessarily.
bro? Here's what that reminded me of. It reminded me of when, you know, what game was this? I think it was game 4 of the 2015, you know, conference semis, and we switched up the matchup and we put Andrew Bogut on Tony Allen. Tony Allen was out there doing crazy shit, and they put a center on Tony Allen and Andrew Bogut, and it threw the wickedest curveball into the Memphis offense. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it reminded me of. When I saw Post guard him out there, that's exactly what it reminded me of.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't disagree. I think the part that annoyed me, and I think this goes back to Ime for the most part. We were using him as a screener. I don't expect any of y'all to have watched all 82 Rockets games like I did this year. We haven't used Ben Thompson as a screener consistently on a play-to-play basis since December, like late December, early January was when he was really used as a primary screener when he was still coming off the bench for the team. That just hasn't been his role in a very, very long time.
yeah.
Um, think it really, really threw him off. I think Steve Kerr made a great adjustment by forcing him to beat us, or forcing him to beat y'all. And tonight he didn't have it. I like the fact that he was aggressive. He tried consistently attacking. He just didn't have anything going on for him tonight.
But that's kind of partially like not to cut you off or nothing like that.
No, go ahead.
But if he's not really hitting shots and he's not really attacking well, how else do you utilize Amen Thompson unless he's playing defensively, other than using him as a
I
screener?
mean, we've used him a lot as dunker spot, corner to corner, um, mostly working along the baseline in layman's terms. That's mostly been his job a lot. When Shingun comes off the short roll, he's the next read. And it gave you guys trouble last game because it forces that second defender to come up. That's another thing I don't think we did enough this game is just running the Jalen Green, Shingun pick and roll. I think because Fred got hot early on, we tried feeding the well a little too much and we got away from what worked last game.
Fred got a better
Um,
in between game, gang. I ain't gonna hold you. You
I,
while you cooking and getting your Rockets therapy going on, Jalen Green don't got a true in between game. He
Yeah, he
has
cooking
made
though. He cooking.
progression. He has
um,
made progression. Now he's made progression. I know one of his trainers, right? But the reality is, if you kind of defend him how you did this game and game 1, he becomes null and void if he's not getting many dunks and if he's not knocking down snatch back threes. You get what I'm saying? Be
Yeah,
real with you. Be
I
real with
think
you.
y'all
Y'all
did
should be
force
down
him
3-0,
middle.
gang. I'm not gonna hold you, but you
I
got
think
it.
y'all did force him middle a lot this game. I think the thing that we didn't do to counter that is we didn't rescreen. We didn't rescreen and allow him to snake, force GP2 to fight over multiple screens. We kind of just ran either one screen with him, let him die, or run one screen and kind of invited the trap on him a lot. I don't think he did the worst job tonight dealing with traps. I think he got out of his hands into the short roll really well tonight, but I don't think we did it enough to force 4-on-3s, and I don't think we really rescreened him enough to allow him to snake, allow him to get downhill, put pressure on a big when he is in drop. You guys didn't run as much drop as you did last game, obviously, but I don't know if we just necessarily did enough to really help out. I also think, especially in that fourth quarter, just the complete lack of going to Shingun. A player to me can be on the court and go cold. I know we've all heard the term iced out. We really iced out Shingun in that third quarter. And then in the fourth quarter, just said, hey, I need you to make these 8 to 10 foot touch shots over and over again. If you've ever played basketball, you know if you're a touch reliant player, how difficult it is to just go from balls not in my hand, really haven't done much. I've been sitting in the corner crashing for the offensive glass to now saying, yeah, I need you to make 5 floaters.
Let me
I
ask you
need I
this
need you
though,
to go
right?
post up back to back to back.
All right. So outside of all that stuff, right? Do you really feel y'all can score the ball like possession to possession? Because I'm just watching the shit and I'm like,
They don't got a half court offense.
these dudes can't score, bro.
They
Bro,
their
like y'all got
best
a
half
nasty half court offense,
I
their
bro.
think
best
And
the
half court player, the best half court player is essentially Fred Van Fleet, just from a body of work standpoint. And Sengun, if you're not doubling him often, which is what most teams do, which is it allows the athleticism of Jalen Green, Amin Thompson, who kind of has mad struggles, but his athleticism makes up for it. That's the reason why it looks so clunky for y'all. Like y'all get y'all points off of turnovers and offensive rebounds. Y'all lead the NBA in offensive rebounds. Like
Yeah,
when you, so
I
yeah,
think the
that's what
thing
really helps y'all.
I think the thing with our half court offense, and you can talk to any Rockets fan, is we don't go back to the well enough. I think when something's working, you see it. You guys did it tonight. And I've always given Steve Kerr credit for this. Whenever that inverted pick and roll works between Draymond and Steph, you guys don't run it twice and say, let's not do it again. Y'all keep going back to it until the team adjusts. Tonight it was GP2 in the short roll. GP2 kept getting open on the short roll. You kept going back to it. He had a couple on the handoffs where he'd fake it, drive to the basket. You kept trusting your guy because your guy kept making plays. Too often we see Shingun get open off the roll. We see Jalen get downhill. He had two, I want to say it was third quarter. They ran the handoff with him and Steven Adams. He got back-to-back layups. We didn't go to it again. We got Shingun back-to-back on the pick and roll. We didn't go to it again. I think that's something we really need to improve upon as a whole, as a team, is just continuing to go back to the well when something's working. Too often do we see something work twice in a row, 3 times in a row, and abandon it for 10, 15 minutes of real time. That, I think, is a major portion of why our half court offense struggles. Rockets fans talk about this a lot, the hierarchy within the team. I always assume when these guys got paid, like Shingun and Jalen signed their extensions in the offseason, the hierarchy is set there. I'm a firm believer. Your paycheck determines the hierarchy in a team. You see it over there. Obviously, Steph is just the best player on that team. He's also getting paid like the best player on that team. Jimmy Butler comes in. Jimmy Butler is getting paid like the best or second best player on that team. Walking in on that court, those two dudes are going to get the most touches, the most looks. We don't necessarily operate all the time. Our slogan this year was sometimes you, sometimes me, always us. It don't need to be always us. Sometimes it needs to be always Shingun, always Jalen, always Fred, whoever has it going at that moment. And that's something we don't necessarily do well. Obviously, we have our deficiencies. Jalen's in between game has always been up and down this season. Fred is still limited in terms of the scoring gravity he has off of screen and rolls. Shingun, when he's not doubled, and especially against a defender like Draymond, it can be hit or miss at times. But we have the talent, I think, to really put these guys in better positions. I don't think we do. I don't think we put them in good enough positions often enough. I don't think we buy them easy buckets. As great as Steph Curry is, I see Steve Kerr scheme up 3 open looks for him every game. That out of bounds look from Looney back to Steph was beautiful. Just a simple down screen to free him right back up was beautiful. That's getting your best player an easy look to get him back in rhythm, to get him going. We don't do that. We don't do that whatsoever.
Yeah,
I'm,
but
I'm,
I don't think y'all got a talent to do that though. You know what I'm saying?
Irk, I think one of the biggest things I would say, and y'all boys can go ahead and cook.
Bro,
One of the biggest issues I think is them trying to do this whole tug of war thing with Steph Curry. I feel
DeAndre,
like he,
I will say this about y'all team, man. You know, one of the things that annoys the fuck out of me about what I watch in basketball